Hello, folks. I'm going to talk about this today, the ACE trigger. I'm going to talk about it some more. I'll go through my experience with it, and I should say I've had a bit of a rethink about striker fired pistols and like what I want to do with them and all that. I may have been a little bit wrong. I've never really liked the striker fired race gun concept. uh, just because of how many problems I've seen when you try to race out, make the Glock into a go fast gun, like a really light trigger, people changing out all the parts and stuff like that. I'm not sure I love changing all the parts just for the sake of it, but the concept of a striker fired race gun is beginning to make way more sense to me when using this Trigger Tech trigger. All right, so let's talk through it. I had a tough travel schedule. I was in Tennessee, um, doing some stuff with Joel. It was a little bit hosted by Lucas. It was meant to be at the T-Rex range, but we had to shift to the Glock store because of that whole thing. Anyway, tough. I had a tough overnight travel to get back to work. Um, you know, because I have to work a little bit. Anyway, I got to the range to do business, and I didn't really have that much to do yesterday, so I ended up shooting a lot, like a lot for me. So a couple thousand rounds just through this gun, and it by the end of the day, it kind of changed my opinion of about race guns, like racing out the striker fired pistol. Okay, so let me talk about the shooting. So I shot a couple thousand rounds, 1,000 rounds of like a hot military ball training round, um, and also a bunch of 100 grain frangible ammo. That's, I would say, low recoil, and the primers are a little bit harder because they don't have lead. So those rounds that I use, the frange, have always been like the test, or like it's a good time you're going to see the failure point on your striker setup. So if your striker's not hitting hard enough, it's not really going to pop that ammo. And this will become important later. So shooting this gun with this trigger, there's so little travel. After shooting the ball ammo for like again 1,000 rounds of that stuff, I found myself queuing on the gun like it's a 2011. All right. Now that doesn't mean that doesn't mean anything all that crazy. It's just when I'm shooting shooting an Atlas, my focus is on me not putting any excess input into the gun. It's like the gun's a little bit of a pig. Like it's heavy. It's a little cumbersome, right? You're dealing with the safety, so I have to like draw it and get it on target, or like transition it over to the target I'm shooting, whatever. And then when I'm actually shooting, I'm just trying to minimize input. I don't really have to do anything, and the gun will return to where I want. And again, it's just controlling myself so I don't, push the gun around. I found myself in exactly the same place with this gun shooting the ball ammo. It was just like, man, I'm so used to so much more travel in the trigger. It's been loaded. Okay. Yeah, so I'm used to so much more travel in the trigger. You can see with this Apex system, like way more travel, and then way less with this, again, much racier setup. And I'm watching the sight in recoil, like do this thing, and I wanted to put in way too much input into the gun. I felt like I was a little bit of a new shooter. But when I was doing everything right, which I will admit it wasn't the whole time, because I'm still getting used to this thing. It's going to take some time. But man, I was finding man, it's just like a 2011. It's just like a 2011. Just like don't put in input, not too much, and it'll be a good result. It'll be fine. When I switched onto the frangible ammo, it was like, holy shit! Like the low recoil frangible, it was like shooting a 2011, but then in a sense, it was easier because the Glock, it points so well for me. It's so handy. It's not cumbersome feeling like a 2011 because it's way lighter. Again, I'm not dealing with the manual safety on it. Um, that's how I felt. I'm like, man, this is a 2011, except easier. Now, with this trigger setup, which Brantley dropped in, and it's got the medium springs, he said he didn't change any of the setup. He just put it in, and I started shooting it. Um, it's not popping the frange ammo. So maybe like 1 in 30, 1 in 40, just don't go off, and I got to rack it out of there and keep going. So it's like the gun doesn't work with that ammo, so I'd have to change something in the setup. But I had glimpses of it where it's just like, man, even at distance, even at like 20 yards shooting aggressively, I think I'd still be matching the 2011 times. And closer in at like 10 yards, I'm going to be faster because I pick up a tenth of a second drawing this compared to a 2011. I pick up a second reloading it compared to a 2011. Here's a good here's a good thing to look at. Like this gun, no magwell. I don't think I'd add a magwell. I don't think it'd make me any faster. But the 2011s I have all have magwells on them just so I can get a gun, just so I can get a mag in it. That's like a little microcosm of like that's just showing you is like the Glock is easier to deal with in that way as far as the manipulations. Yeah. So anyway, reporting this experience, why do I think that? Why am I rethinking striker fired race guns? Where it's like, well, just based on experience, I'm like, man, if this setup was right, like if the ammo was popping and everything, this would be crazy. This would be really good. And I could even do more stuff. Like maybe I could adjust the spring or put in weight in the front of the pistol to try that and see how it feels. It was yeah, it was a really good experience for me. And for the first time, I find myself thinking maybe I should race these guns out and like modify them extensively and see what kind of performance I can get out of them because I'm thinking I could match a 2011 maybe with the gun, especially at close range. So that was kind of the thinking that I had. Now, as far as the Trigger Tech trigger itself, to me, it's working very consistently. I don't know if I'd use the word reliably. It's not popping the ammo, but in terms of its function, it's very, very consistent. It popped 1,000 out of 1,000 of the ball ammo, no issues. It clearly isn't hitting hard enough to set off the frange, and it just doesn't work well. But this is meant to be adjustable, right? So I could change the setup a little bit and get it to work the way I want. So I'm not bent at the trigger. It's just like it's working consistently, and it's meant to be adjusted and set just right. So again, it's like even though the trigger's not exactly doing what I want, it's pretty interesting. I'm just like, I'll say that. Yeah, so that was my observation shooting it. The Trigger Tech thing has made me rethink striker fired race guns. That's a good way of putting it. Now let's go to your comments on the last video I put out talking about this trigger setup. See what you guys have to say. All right, I called and spent about an hour on the phone with Trigger Tech when the original version came out and failed my drop tests. They sent me the same pre-production version, and I love it. I like Glock, but for the last few years, the trigger has been the first thing I change. Have tried Johnny Glock's Glock Performance, settled on Timmy as my personal favorite until now. Like you said, this is a dramatic change. Trigger Tech deserves big kudos for showing SIG how it's done. Yeah, I mean, I can say like the trigger is like it's a very dramatic change. I do agree with that. All right, let's see what else we got. Ben, the Atlas is dead to me. Get a Glock 47 with the Trigger Tech. I don't know that the Atlas is dead to me, but I've always appreciated how easy the Glocks are to handle. It's like I draw it well, reload it well. It's very, very friendly in that way. And that the Atlases are the most intuitive 2011s, but it still feels cumbersome by comparison. I mean, there's not a good way to get around that. Let's see what else we got. I didn't want to mess with my main Glock 47, so I found an unissued police trade-in Glock 17 and bought it just for the Trigger Tech install. I only have 400 rounds through mine, but I'm impressed, and when I can exchange mine for the USPSA legal version, I'll run it in matches. Yeah, I mean, that's pretty reasonable. This seems again like a very interesting setup for matches. Um, let's see what else we got here. Duty use isn't about trigger pull weight. If there's a possibility of a gun going off in the holster when an officer is wrestling a suspect or during a car crash, it's not for duty use. Well, sure. I mean, the pull weight's part of it. You don't want to create a liability for yourself, but yeah, you want the gun to be safe. And I don't think anyone is thinking that this Trigger Tech product would be for duty use. I mean, for a lot of reasons. See what else we got. I've been through the Apex, Ghost Connectors, Glock Performance, and Overwatch precision triggers for my Glocks. I've settled on keeping everything stock besides the shoe. I like the flat shoe from Overwatch. I think when people are looking for something light, defined wall, clean break, or quick reset, that can be an indicator they're relying on the trigger properties as a crutch. They need those things so they can prep and press and ride the reset. What they should be working on is getting a good, consistent grip and being target focused so they can let it rip. Yeah, I mean, I totally agree. Like the setup I shot today with this one from Apex, which is way mushier. It's not at all like the Trigger Tech one. I had to use that one today because I know it pops the ammo. It would be kind of stupid to use the other one, even though it was maybe a little bit tempting. Let's see. Anyone else? Just upgraded my Glock 47. My local gunsmith duplicated the JTT barrel that Aim Surplus sells. It seems to return to point of aim even quicker. I refer to the 47 as Glock's happy accident. I'm one of those guys that enjoy effing with stuff, including triggers. As an aside, the cut on the slide cover is not relevant. The gun will function fine with the armor slide cover on it and has the bottom half of the cover removed. Yeah, I don't think the cut it's a huge deal. I think people don't. I mean, and I'm in this boat too. I emotionally don't like cutting on the thing. I just don't like it. But I recognize like I don't really think it's a problem. I just don't like that I have to do it. I definitely prefer the Glock 47 recoil impulse. It for sure has been fast to return without being violently snappy. With the butt plug, it feels perfect for me. Yeah, I mean, I agree. Like this gun, like the way that this thing reciprocated with the frange is crazy. And it's like the trigger is showing me like how much extra input I put into the gun just because of the weight and the travel of the trigger. It's so useful for me to shoot like the same platform with such a radically different trigger because I mean, yeah, it shows me what I'm doing. And that was kind of my big takeaway. It's like, oh man, if I didn't suck, like maybe one of these, like a race guns, that'd be cool. It'd be so good. Let's see what else we got. I'm a Glock 17 guy through and through. However, I've used Glock 45s a few times. Yeah, okay. Would it be a fair comparison that the 47 recoils and tracks this? Would it be a fair comparison that the 47 recoils and tracks the same way a 45 does? I've run half and half drills with both guns. I can clear all stages of the 45, but I'm 50-50 with the 17 on the last stage. There's not a huge difference in the feel between a Glock 45 and a 47. I think the 47 is just a little smoother, but it's not that big of a difference. Anything else? No, I don't think so. Anyway, that's all for me today, guys. I just thought yesterday was a day where I'm rethinking things. That's the best way of putting it.